You're watching Tornado Facts with Beanrock124, Season 2, Episode 19, or Episode 39. My name is Nathan, and I talk about tornadoes all the time. Wow, we are almost done with Season 2. I cannot believe it. It just feels like I started this series again just a couple weeks ago. But that's how fast time goes, unfortunately. Already, this day, the video came out. Excuse that. This day, the video came out 1 year ago. I won my conference wrestling meet, and it just feels like a few weeks ago that happened. So it's just unbelievable. Something else that's unbelievable is this: the 1999 Bridge Creek, Moore, Oklahoma F5 tornado on May 3rd, 1999. In fact, this is the first episode of Tornado Facts with Beanrock124 where I talk about a specific tornado outside of the outbreak that it occurred in. So obviously there's some tornadoes I talked about that was just themselves so bad that they had their own article about it, but this was part of a bigger outbreak I covered in the last episode, and now I'm covering the tornado in more detail in a separate video. That's how significant this video is. So on the evening of, oh my god, this thing is annoying. So on the evening of Monday, May 3rd, 1999, a large and extremely powerful F5 tornado registered the highest wind speeds ever measured globally. Winds were recorded 301 plus or minus 20 miles per hour by a Doppler on wheel radar. Considered the strongest tornado ever to have considered the strongest tornado ever recorded to have affected the metropolitan area of Oklahoma City. The tornado devastated the southern portions of town, along with surrounding suburbs and towns to the south and southeast. The tornado covered 38 miles during its 85-minute existence, destroying thousands of homes, killing 36 people, plus an additional 5 directly, and leaving about $1.5 billion in damage in 1999 dollars. So, if we divide 38 by 85, it was moving at an average speed of 44 miles an hour. I think, if my math is correct, unless it's 85 divided by 38. Yeah, it's 38 divided by 85. So it was moving on average about almost 45 miles an hour. This would be the fifth, adjusted for inflation, this would, not adjusted for inflation, this would be the fifth costliest tornado on record ever in the United States. And this was also the first. This tornado also caused the first tornado emergency to ever be issued by the National Weather Service, issued at 6:57 p.m. The tornado touched down at 6:23 p.m. Central Time in Grady County, roughly 2 miles southwest of the town of Amber. No, it touched down about half a mile east of Amber. The tornado quickly intensified to a violent F4 and gradually reached F5 intensity after traveling 6.5 miles. At which time it struck the town of Bridge Creek. It fluctuated in strength, ranging from F2 to F5 status before it crossed into Cleveland County, where it reached F5 intensity for a third time shortly before entering Moore. By 7:30 p.m., the tornado crossed into Oklahoma County and battered southeast Oklahoma City, Del City, and Midwest City before dissipating around 7:48 p.m. just outside Midwest City. A total of 8,132 homes, 1,041 apartments, 260 businesses, 11 public buildings, and 7 churches were either damaged or destroyed. Now I'm going to silence that. Large-scale search and rescue operations immediately took place in the affected areas. A major disaster declaration was signed by President Bill Clinton the following day, May 4th, allowing the state to receive federal aid. In the following months, disaster aid amounted to $67.8 million. Reconstruction projects in subsequent years led to a safer tornado-ready community. However, on May 20th, 2013, almost 10 years ago now, nearby areas adjacent to the 99 storm track, along with some of the same areas in the path of the tornado, were again devastated by another large and violent EF5 tornado, resulting in 24 fatalities and extreme damage in the South Oklahoma City Moore area. Yeah, we all know what this tornado is. Here's your Jesus Christ. Here's your absurdly long meteorological synopsis. I don't feel like reading a lot of this because I kind of read it in the last episode, and whatever. The Bridge Creek Moore tornado was part of a much larger outbreak, which included 71 tornadoes across 5 states throughout the Central Plains on May 3rd alone, along with an additional 25 that touched down a day later. I don't think that's the right number. Some of the areas affected by the storms on May 3rd were again affected on May 4th. And this event is stretched eastward into the Mississippi River Valley. The most prolific tornadic event associated with the was with the May 3rd outbreak, and as the multi-day outbreak as a whole occurred in Oklahoma. 14 out of the 66 tornadoes that occurred within the state that afternoon and evening produced damage consistent with the Fujita's scale's strong F2 to F3 intensity and violent F4 to F5 categories, which, in addition to the area struck by the Bridge Creek Moore tornado family, affected towns such as Mulhall, Cimarron City, Dover, Choctaw, and Stroud. On the morning of May 3rd, in its Day 1 convective outlook for U.S., I read that part in the last episode if you want to read it. And this part bores me, I swear. So we'll start here. By the early afternoon hours, forecasters at both the Storm Prediction Center and National Weather Service Norman, both of which shared an office complex near the Max Westheimer Airport at the time, realized that a major event was likely to take place based solely on observational data from radar and weather satellite imagery and balloon soundings, as the computer models remain uncooperative in helping meteorologists determine where the greatest threat of severe weather storms would occur. Conditions became highly conducive for tornadic activity by 1 p.m. as wind shear intensified over the region, as confirmed by an unscheduled balloon sounding flight conducted by the Norman office, creating a highly unstable atmosphere. The sounding balloon recorded winds blowing southwesterly at 20 miles an hour and 50 miles an hour respectively at the surface, and at the 12,000-foot level, southerly winds of 40 miles an hour and westerly winds of 20 miles an hour at 20,000 feet. It also indicated a capping inversion over the region was weakening in southwestern Oklahoma and north Texas. With the warm air above the surface cooling down, this allowed warm air at the surface the chance to rise and potentially create thunderstorms. Although cirrus clouds, a bank of which developed in West Texas and overspread portions of Oklahoma later in the morning, were present through much of the day. An area of clearing skies over western North Texas and southwestern Oklahoma early that afternoon allowed for the sun to heat up the moisture-laden region, creating significant atmospheric instability. So at 3:49 p.m. Central Time, the SPC, having gathered enough data to surmise that there was a credible threat of significant severe weather occurring within the next few hours, amended its Day 1 convective outlook to place the western 9/10 of the main body of Oklahoma, central and south Kansas, and the northern 2/3 of Texas under a high risk of severe weather, denoting a higher than normal probability for strong F2 plus tornadoes within the risk area. About 40 minutes after the revised outlook's issuance at 4:30 p.m., the Storm Prediction Center issued a tornado watch for western and central Oklahoma, effective from 4:45 p.m. till 10 p.m. that evening, for the threat of tornadoes, hail up to 3 inches in diameter, and wind gusts up to 80 miles an hour and intense lightning. As that happened, the first thunderstorm cell of the unfolding event had already formed over southwestern Oklahoma. Speaking of which, here you can see it there. So here's the supercell there. That's the Moore one there. Right there, and then it goes off north. It happens quick, but you can figure it out. Oh, Lord, help me. Anyways, the thunderstorm that would eventually produce the F5 tornado began developing around 3:20 p.m. that afternoon in northeastern Tillman County, southwest of Faxon. Despite the lack of overall lift prevalent in the region, the storm formed out of a contrail-like horizontal area of convective clouds that developed during peak surface heating over southwestern Oklahoma, located well ahead of the dry line that was still positioned farther to the west, which provided enhanced lift and speed shear necessary to develop the supercell. Tracking northeast, the storm strengthened and entered Comanche County shortly after 4 p.m. Comanche County is where Lawton is. By 4:15, the National Weather Service Office issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Comanche County as the initial storm continued to rapidly intensify over the southern half of the county. There, hail up to 1 3/4 inches in diameter fell. As the supercell's mesocyclonic rotation began to rapidly strengthen at the cloud base, a tornado warning was issued for the counties of Comanche, Caddo, and Grady at 4:50 p.m. 1 minute later, a small tornado roughly 25 yards in diameter, the first of 14 tornadoes associated with supercell A, which is the notorious one that spawned the F5, touched down 7 miles east-northeast of Medicine Park along Highway 62. 5 more tornadoes developed as the storm continued northeast. A sixth one, which would be given a F3 rating, touched down a short time later and caused substantial damage in central Grady County, which this one's not right. including some to the Chickasha Municipal Airport, where roofs were torn off from two hangars. That's not right. It should be. It was an F2 that did that, so we'll see. At 6:23, tornado A9 formed, which is the F5, touched down about. This one says it again, 2 miles south-southwest of Amber. Maybe I'm wrong. Tornado quickly intensified in both strength and size as it crossed Highway 92, attaining F4 strength about 4 miles east-northeast of Amber. It quickly became a wedge tornado, varying between a quarter mile and a mile wide in width at various points throughout the track. Damage consistent with this rating was sustained over the following 6.5 miles of the path before striking Bridge Creek. There, it attained the highest possible rating on the Fujita scale, F5. A mobile Dow radar, Doppler on wheels radar, recorded winds of 301 miles an hour within the tornado at Bridge Creek, the highest wind speed ever recorded on Earth. Since the record for maximum winds are reported from only non-tornadic events, however, the 253-mile-per-hour wind gusts from Cyclone Olivia in 1996 retained the title, even though more should have it. Hang on a second. Damage in Bridge Creek was extreme, as many homes were swept away completely, leaving only concrete slabs where the structures once stood. Damaged surveyors noted that the remaining structural debris from some of the houses in this area was finally granulated into small fragments, and that trees and shrubs were completely debarked. A few of these homes were bolted to their foundations. Approximately 200 homes, houses and mobile homes were destroyed, and hundreds of other structures were damaged. The Ridgecrest Baptist Church in Bridge Creek was also destroyed in the process. Extensive ground scouring occurred, and vehicles were thrown hundreds of yards from where they originated, including a mangled pickup truck that was found wrapped around a telephone pole. About 1 inch of asphalt was scoured off of a road. About 12 people died in Bridge Creek, 9 of whom were in mobile homes. We're not gonna go into that because there's too much to talk about here. All fatalities and the majority of injuries were concentrated in the Willow Lake and Southern Hills additions and Bridge Creek Estates neighborhoods, consisting mostly of mobile homes. Over 39 people were injured in this area as well. Continuing northeast, the tornado briefly weakened to F4 status before re-intensifying to F5 intensity as it neared the Grady-McLean County line, where a car was thrown a roughly quarter mile in the air in a well-built home with anchor bolts was reduced to a bare slab. At this time, it had attained a width of a mile wide, having grown to its largest width after crossing the Canadian River into the southern Oklahoma City area. The tornado then quickly became rain-wrapped. Jim Gardner, I'm going to find this clip, and if I find it, I'm going to put in the video right now. Jim Gardner, then helicopter pilot for KFOR, reported during the station's live coverage of the storm that the tornado was at least a mile wide and was embedded in the precipitation core associated with the main circulation, making it difficult to see. So if I find that, it'll be in the video right now. As it was becoming clear that a particularly violent tornado was moving into some of the most densely populated areas of central Oklahoma, around 6:57 p.m., I was right, National Weather Service Norman issued the first ever tornado emergency for portions of southern portions of the Oklahoma City metro. David Andra, the guy that released it, said that in drafting the enhanced warning, he wanted to paint the picture to residents in the area that were to be affected by the storm that a rare and deadly tornado was imminent for the metro. For its initial usage, the enhanced wording was released as part of a standalone severe weather statement, which were and still are normally meant to update the public on an existing tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning. For tornado warnings, the severe weather statement provides updated information on the proximate location based on the storm's base level rotation, or if it occurred after the initial warning was issued, a tornado reported by the public, civil defense personnel, or storm spotters, or with the later advent of dual polarization radar in the early 2010s. Verified by radar detected debris signatures. In future instances, tornado emergencies were issued within either the initial tornado warning issuance or SVS, so I'm going to call it from now on, providing updated information on tornado warning already in effect. So 2 minutes later, 6:59 p.m., the Storm Prediction Center issued a PDS tornado watch from much of the central third of Oklahoma, effective from 7:15 p.m. until midnight on May 4th. The Tornado Watch product discussion noted that the extreme instability compensated for somewhat marginal wind shear to enhance the threat of strong to violent tornadoes. So, paralleling I-44, the tornado moved into McLean County briefly, where it crossed 44 twice at F4 intensity. killing a woman who was blown out of an underpass where she was attempting to seek shelter after being dragged down the embankment by the intense channeling winds. Her 11-year-old son, oh lord, viewer discussion is advised right now. Her 11-year-old son, with whom the woman vacated their stalled car nearby, survived, staying held tight on the steel girders of the overpass. Okay, good. Man who helped the mother and son up the overpass suffered severe injuries to a leg, which was partially sliced by a highway sign thrown by the winds. Okay, how did I not read that part ahead? Okay, anyways. At 7:10 p.m., a satellite tornado touched down in over an open field north of Newcastle. It was rated as an F0 due to the lack of damage. In McLean County, 38 homes and 2 businesses were destroyed, and 40 homes, some of which were leveled at F4 intensity, were flattened. 17 people were injured. After crossing the Canadian River, the tornado entered Cleveland County, weakened to F2 intensity. When I watched live coverage of this video, I always thought that this would have been the end of the tornado's life, but I wanted to keep going. Anyways, several minutes after entering Cleveland County, it reattained F4 status and then moved directly into the city of Moore, reaching F5 intensity for a third time. Some of the most severe damage took place in Cleveland County, mainly in Moore, where 11 people were killed and 293 others were injured. The tornado caused an estimated $450 million across the county, $450 million in damage across the county. The first area impacted in Moore was the Country Place Estates subdivision, where 50 homes were destroyed and one was swept cleanly from its foundation at F5 intensity. Several vehicles were picked up and tossed nearly a quarter mile away from their previous location. According to local police, an airplane wing believed to have been from an airport in Grady County, possibly lofted into the storm's updraft when the supercell's 6th tornado hit the Chickasha Airport, was found near the Country Place Estates. Geez, that's like 40 miles, I think. Then the tornado struck the densely populated Greenbrier East Lake Estates at F5 intensity, killing 3 people there and reducing entire rows of homes to rubble. In one instance, 4 adjacent homes were completely destroyed with only concrete slabs remaining, warranting an F5 rating at that location. 3 other homes in this housing division were also received F5 damage, with the remaining destruction rated high-end F4. Severe debarking of trees was noted in this area. At the Emerald Springs Apartments, 3 more people were killed, and a 2-story apartment building was mostly flattened. As the tornado entered Cleveland County, NWS Norman activated emergency procedures, preparing to evacuate staff and others present at the facility in the event the supercell should turn right, placing areas surrounding the Norman campus in the tornado's path, under NOAA protocol in situations posing a danger to personnel at the local weather forecast offices. A related guidance center's responsibility over the issuance of warnings and statements on the unfolding outbreak would have been transferred to the nearest National Weather Service office based in Tulsa, while the Storm Prediction Center's forecasting responsibilities would be turned over to the 557th Weather Wing at the Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha. The supercell, however, continued on a northeastward track, sparing the Norman area. Mike Morgan and Gary England, I believe, if I can find either of those clips, said the tornado may go into North Norman. I believe Mike Morgan said that, and I'll put that in the video right now.
West Moore, Central Moore, South Moore, Newcastle, and far North Norman are in immediate danger of this tornado that continues to be on the ground.
Anyways, safety precautions were also enacted elsewhere in and near the storm's path. Council members and citizens at Moore City Hall, where a council meeting was scheduled to be held that evening, sheltered in place in the building's first-floor restrooms, away from the multiple large pane windows at its facade. In downtown Oklahoma City, spectators attending sporting events that were held that evening involving the 2 cities' minor league teams, a regular Pacific Coast League baseball game between the Red Hawks and the Memphis Redbirds, which was suspended during the 2nd inning, and Game 2 of Ray Miron President's Cup between the Central Hockey League's Oklahoma City Blazers and Huntsville Channel Cats were also evacuated to a shelter in an underground storage area connected to the southwestern Bell Bricktown Ballpark and Myriad Convention Center amid concerns that the storm would jog northward and place Oklahoma City itself in the tornado's path. Flights were grounded at Will Rogers World Airport as the northern edge of the supercell, containing up to 1 1/4-inch diameter hail, straight line wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour, and moderate to heavy rain approached the area. Tornado turned right away from the southwestern parts of the city proper within Oklahoma City shortly before airport officials began evacuating employees and visitors at the terminals. Traffic on I-35 in South Oklahoma City and North Moore became backed up for several miles as drivers evacuated from the vehicles to seek shelter under an overpass overlooking South Shields Boulevard. Note, do not do that. It's already been proven deadly from this same tornado a little while ago. Just outside the East Lake Estates, an honors ceremony was being held at Westmore High School at the time of the tornado. Adequate warning time allowed those in the school to seek shelter. However, and more than 400 adults and students attending the award ceremony at the school's auditorium were moved into the main building, sheltering in reinforced hallways and bathrooms. Ultimately, Westmore High School sustained heavy damage, and dozens of cars that were in the school's parking lot were tossed around, some of which were completely destroyed or thrown into nearby homes. No injuries took place at the high school, though a horse was found dead between a couple of destroyed cars in this area. Ugh. The tornado proceeded through additional densely populated areas and more shortly thereafter, where several large groups of homes were flattened in residential areas with a mixture of high-end F4 to low-end F5 intensity in the survey. Near Janeway Avenue, 4 people were killed in an area where multiple homes were completely flattened. A woman who took shelter with her husband and 2 children were also killed when she was blown out of the Shields overpass on I-35. The tornado weakened somewhat as it moved through the Highland Park neighborhood of Moore, but still caused widespread F3 to F4 damage. Tornado entered Oklahoma County and struck the southeast fringes of Oklahoma County, where it re-intensified to high-end F4 strength. 2 people were killed in this area as a building housing a trucking company was completely destroyed. Shortly before it tracked into the county, patrons and employees at the Crossroads Mall were evacuated to storage areas in the basement of the building because they thought the tornado would track up I-35 toward 35 and 240, where Crossroads Mall is. Numerous industrial buildings were leveled in this area of the city. A freight railroad car weighing 36,000 pounds was thrown 3/4 of a mile away. Now, this industrial part, you can hear Mike Morgan in the KL4 live coverage saying the GM plant is not safe. Here's that clip right now.
The GM plant is not safe.
No,
GM plant is in the direct path of this.
If you're working out in the General Motors plant, take the immediate tornado precautions.
Evacuate the plant right now. Go to your designated tornado safety area at the GM plant right now.
This freight railroad car, I said this already, but I'm going to reread it. A freight railroad car weighing 36,000 pounds was thrown 3/4 of a mile away. The car bounced as it traveled, remaining airborne for 50 to 100 yards at a time. Multiple homes were also completely destroyed in southeast Oklahoma City. 1 woman was killed in that area. Crossing southeast 44th into Dell City, the tornado moved through the highly populated Dell Air Housing Addition, killing 6 people and destroying or damaging hundreds of homes, with many sustaining F3 to F4 damage. 7 people were killed as a result of the tornado in Dell City, and hundreds of homes were damaged or destroyed there. The tornado then crossed Sooner Road and subsequently damaged an entry gate and several buildings at the Tinker Air Force Base. It then crossed 29th Street into Midwest City, destroying 1 building at the Boeing complex and damaging 2 others. Widespread F3 to F4 damage continued as the tornado crossed I-40, affecting a large business district. This would be Tinker Diagonal I-40 at this point. Approximately 800 vehicles at the Hudiburg Auto Group, I believe is how you pronounce it, were damaged, located just south of I-40. Hundreds of vehicles at the dealership were moved from their original location on the lot, and dozens of vehicles, including 30, awaiting tune-ups or repairs at the Morris's Auto Machine and Supply, and an unoccupied Middale school district bus, were picked up and thrown northward across the interstate into several motels, being carried a distance of approximately 2/10 of a mile, or a fifth of a mile, actually. Numerous motels and other businesses, including a Hampton Inn, Comfort Inn Suites, Clarion Inn, Cracker Barrel, and portions of Rose State College were destroyed. While some of the damage through this area was rated high-end F4, low-end F5 was considered. At this point, you might as well just give it to them. The tornado then continued into another residential area between Southeast 15th and Reno, where 3 fatalities occurred. Damage consistent with high-end F4 wind speeds was inflicted to 4 homes in this area. 2 of these homes were located between Southeast 11th and Southeast 12th Streets near Buena Vista, and the other 2 homes were located on Will Rogers Road just south of Southeast 15th. Damage then diminished rapidly to F0 to F1 strength as the tornado crossed Reno Avenue, dissipating 3 blocks north of Reno between Sooner and Air Depot Boulevards. south of the Midwest City, Oklahoma City line. Throughout Oklahoma County, 12 people were killed and 234 were injured, while losses amounted to $450 million again. I believe somewhere it said $450 million. In Cleveland County it did. So, 900, that's $1 billion in damage right there. I think. $900 million there. So another $100 million occurred outside of, what do you call it? Outside of the counties. Okay, great. The day I'm recording this, January 2nd, there's a significant severe weather event happening. You've probably already heard of it. And a tornado watch has just been issued, so that's nice. Actually, soon. I don't know. Anyways, 36 people were killed as a result of the storm. Not the one that happened on January 2nd, May 3rd. 36 people were killed as a result of the storm, and 5 more died of indirect causes in the following hours. Most of the indirect deaths were due to heart attacks or injuries suffered while trying to seek shelter. One survivor was uninjured but died from a self-inflicted... a self-inflicted boom in an apparent reaction to losing his home in the tornado. According to the Oklahoma Department of Health, an estimated 583 people... Oh my god, shut up. 583 people were injured by the tornado, accounting for those who did not go to the hospital or were unaccounted for. A total of 8,132 homes, 1,041 businesses, 260 businesses... 8,132 homes, 1,041 apartments, 260 businesses, 11 public buildings, and 7 churches were either damaged or destroyed. Estimated damage cost total $1.2 billion, making it the first recorded tornado to exceed $1 billion in total estimated damage. The Bridge Creek Moore tornado produced an estimated 220 cubic yards of debris from the buildings that were destroyed. Jeez. This was the deadliest tornado recorded in Oklahoma since the Woodward tornado on April 9th, 1947. That F5 tornado there, I have a video about that. It was also the deadliest tornado ever recorded in the Oklahoma City metro area. The previous record was held by an F4 tornado that affected southwest portions of the city on June 12th, 1942, where 31 people were killed and an estimated $500,000 in damage occurred. $12.1 million in 2023 dollars. It was the costliest tornado in U.S. history until it was surpassed by the Tuscaloosa tornado on you know what day that was, causing an estimated $2.45 billion in damage. As of 2015, the Bridge Creek tornado is the 4th costliest tornado, having also been surpassed by the EF5 tornadoes that hit Joplin on May 22nd, 2011, and the May 20th storm. In addition, this was the 50th and final tornado in the United States to be rated F5 on the original Fujita scale before the dumb EF scale was implemented on February 1st, 2007. That would make it 16 years old in a couple days. National Weather Service researchers estimated that the death toll from the storm would have likely exceeded 600 had it not been for advanced warning through local television and radio stations and proper safety precautions exercised by area residents. Because Oklahoma has historically been prone to tornadic activity, Oklahoma City area television stations KFOR, KLCO, and News 9, each of which provided continuous coverage of the outbreak that spawned the Bridge Creek Moore tornado and its ensuing aftermath from the events started on the afternoon of May 3rd through the evening of May 4th. Jeez, I don't think they were on that long. Well, then again, Mike Morgan, Gary England, and whatever the guy from KLCO is named, they probably got breaks and they had somebody else come in for a while. You never know. Because the only live coverage from my KFOR is what I have uploaded on YouTube. Anyways, the state has long relied on the state-of-the-art technology, radar, whatever, and visual confirmation from news helicopters and in-house storm-chasing fleets to cover severe weather events. The 3 network affiliate stations, other local media outlets, and the National Weather Service also routinely conduct various tornado preparedness, to ensure residents undertake precautions in the event of a tornado or other severe weather events that affect the area. Aftermath, oh my god, why is the aftermath just as long? Following the destructive and widespread, oh my god, shut up. Following the widespread tornado outbreak, President Clinton signed a major declaration for disaster relief for 11 Oklahoma counties, including 4 that were affected by the Moore tornado, on May 4th. I actually read this in the last episode, so I'm not going to read this. Actually, I don't feel like reading all of that. And this I definitely read last episode. So I don't have to read that there. But this I will read. Preliminary damage surveys conducted by a group of structural engineers from Texas Tech determined that many of the frame houses that were destroyed by the tornado, hang on a second, were constructed below minimal residential building code standards, discovering some structural deficiencies that violated codes, which were considered to be inadequate for regions prone to tornadic activity under federal building standards. Under federal building code standards, actually. Frame homes that were properly strapped and bolted would have withstood winds between 152 and 157 miles an hour, equivalent to an F2 tornado. The team, led by meteorologist Charles Doswell and storm damage engineer meteorologist Tim Marshall, determined that nails attached to a plywood roof deck in one damaged home were not properly anchored to the rafters. Several homes in rural areas that were swept nearly 300 feet from their original location did not have anchor bolts that secured the frame to their foundations, as was the case at County Place Estates, where the homes, which left a trail of debris strewn 3,000 feet away from their location, were attached to the concrete foundations by tapered cut nails that extended only half an inch to the bases. Many homes that were left at least partially standing also had their garage doors, mainly those made from aluminum material, collapse inward, allowing the tornado's destructive winds to enter the house. Marshall discovered other building and vehicle remains that became debris missiles, including a twisted 36-inch steel beam, a steel leg that broken off of a lawn chair that was impaled into a 5x5-inch post by the violent winds, and a 6-foot section of a sewer pipe that was blown into the interior hallway of one house through the front door. Jeez. The team's findings also revealed that several homes were obliterated before they experienced the full impact of the vortex peak wind velocities, with some disintegrating as the external winds surrounding the parent tornado reached speeds of F2 intensity. 3 months later, as homes were being built in the damaged path, Marshall found their construction to be scarcely superior to that of the homes destroyed in the May 3rd storm. What? That doesn't make sense. FEMA corroborated with Doswell and Marshall's findings in its Building Performance Assessment Team report on the May 3rd outbreak, noting that much of the structural damage resulted from strong winds generated by the tornado and associated wind-borne debris that often, quote, produces forces on buildings not designed to withstand such forces, and in some cases were due to improper construction techniques and poor selection of materials used in their construction. The report acknowledged that federal construction code requirements need to be revised above the then current minimum standards to allow newer buildings to be better, newer buildings to better withstand higher winds consistent with tornadoes of lesser intensity than the one that affected the Bridge Creek and Moore areas, thereby lessening the degree of damage, fatalities, and injuries that are probable in buildings typically less reinforced construction. Ugh, that took way too long, but I got one more part to read. The events and survivor accounts of the tornado were profiled in an episode of Discovery Channel's Critical Rescue, produced by... I'm not going to read that. I've seen this episode. It's pretty good. Aired in 2003, and NHNZ's Ultimate Disaster, Mega Disaster, and National Geographic in 2006. So, that is it for probably the longest Tornado Facts Beanrock124 video I've ever made. It seems like I've been doing this for half an hour, but I don't know. So, this has been Tornado Facts Beanrock124 Season 2, Episode 19 or Episode 39, talking about the 1999 Bridge Creek, Moore, Oklahoma F5 tornado on May 3rd, 1999. And with that, goodbye.